Homes Hot Rod and Cycles. As y'all saw last episode, we were working on the C10, removing the front suspension, the brakes, the cross member, different things like that. We ran the cross member to a buddy up in Fredericksburg, Texas. He's going to blast that along with some other stuff that we have here, like intakes and different wall hangers. While he's taking care of that, we're going to go ahead and jump back on the frame. We're going to cut out the old transmission cross member. Since we don't need that anymore, we're going to a different type of transmission, so the mount's a little bit different. And we're going to start wire wheeling and cleaning up the front half of the frame to put a nice coat of paint on it. So y'all stay tuned, check it out, and see what we can do. All right, so let's take a look at what we're going to achieve today. There's another look at the frame here. That's the cross member that we're going to cut out. It's got some rivets up here on top and on the bottom. It's hard to get to on the top with the cab, so I'm going to actually cut the cross member out here, and then once that's out of the way, then I can go back and try to get those rivets from up underneath. And then we're going to remove the exhaust, the brake lines, the shocks. They're just kind of hanging there. And we're going to start wire wheeling this frame, get all the grease that is left over from pressure washing. We're going to get that off. And then we're going to get any of this old paint, rust, scale, anything like that. We can just prep it real good, and then we're going to slap a coat of paint on it. So let's get to it. So some of y'all are probably wondering why I cut it out like that instead of just cutting the rivets out and pulling it all out together. So there's two rivets on the bottom. I don't know if you can see that. There's one there, one there. Those are easy enough to cut from the bottom. I could have cut those out and the bottom of the cross member would have been loose. But the top, you have one rivet here, which you can get to. It's kind of a tight spot there, but you can get to. But the other one is back underneath here, underneath the cab. You can't get to that. So the only way to cut that out is from up underneath the frame, coming up this way. Well, if the cross member is in the way, you can't get anything in there. That's real easy to cut that rivet out. So I cut it out this way. So now I can remove the bottom section completely out. It'll be completely off the frame. I'll remove this. And then here, I can cut this one like this or from underneath. This one back here, I now have access or room to go up underneath to get that out. So that's the only reason, is the rivets that hold it are up underneath the cab, and you can't cut them out as easy as like this one here or something that's exposed. So that's why I cut it like I do. Now, maybe if you had a torch or something like that that you were real precise with, but I don't want to mess up the bottom of the cab trying to get to that last one. So I cut it out like this. Now I'll go back and I'll remove this whole bottom section. I'll cut those two rivets out. Those are easy enough. Could have done it from the beginning, but it's a like a clamshell. So I got to cut the bottom out and the top to get it out of the way. And now I'll come back, cut that rivet out, and then that back one I'll have to go up underneath the frame to get to that. So that's why I cut it out like that. I don't know of a really easier way to do it unless the cab's out. Unless the cab's out, you can cut the rivets out from top of the frame and bottom of the frame and you're done. But that one over there has got you kind of in a bind underneath there. So you got to get to it up underneath the frame. Well, you got to get the cross member out to get your hand or a grinder or torch or whatever you're going to do out of there. So now I'm going to cut these two rivets out on the bottom here, one there, one there. That'll get that bottom piece out, as you see over there, and then I can get up underneath and now get that rivet out from underneath the cab, going bottom to top. Let's do it. transmission cross member out. Y'all can tell in the video, the bottom ones came off real easy. It's these two here. You can cut them up from underneath and just chisel them out, and they basically drop right out. The top portions are a little bit harder, like I explained earlier. These front ones here, they come out pretty good. If you have a bigger diameter cutting blade, it can reach depth wise and cut it off no problem. Just underneath that little pinch weld, up underneath the cab is that one. You can get it from underneath. It just takes a little bit more. It actually is better if you have a smaller diameter cutoff wheel, so you can get the grinder in there to cut it off. But with a little bit of chiseling and a little bit of hammering, they end up popping off. They're not huge rivets. They're kind of small. Especially on the inner side of the frame, the head of the rivet is a lot smaller than on top of the frame, if that makes sense. The head that's up here is more mushroomed out. On the bottom, it's not as mushroomed out, so if you knock the panel down towards the little head, it'll actually come off without even cutting the whole head off. It'll actually kind of just wear itself down and come off that way. So keep that in mind if you're doing it. The frame's pretty much done now. It's ready for a wire wheel. We took the shocks off camera. That's just one bolt. That's not a big deal. We left the emergency brake cable there. As you can see, that's not going to be in the way. We're not even going to take that off. We can grind around it and clean up that. But that's the next step, is cleaning up this frame with the wire wheel and some flap disc. We're going to get all of this off. And we're going to get down here the best we can, up underneath the bumper and stuff, and get it a nice coat of black paint, and it'll be good to go to start putting the cross members back in when we get them. All right, so now we're going to start wire wheeling the frame and grinding the frame, getting all of that rust and scale and dirt and all of that stuff off that the pressure washer didn't take off. To do that, I'm going to use one of these wire wheels. I have a couple. They got the little knotted up strands. If you've used these, you know that if you hit a wrong corner or a wrong angle and it catches, RIP to your wrist. Okay, these things are pretty aggressive, and they like flat surfaces. They don't like getting into like little corners, and they'll catch, and because it's so thick and knotted up, man, this thing will slap around and jump one of these out of your hands if you don't have a good grip. So be careful with this. We'll change. This isn't the only one we're going to use, but for the most part of the frame, the open, the outside, the top, the bottom, we're going to use this. And then once we get in the inside, to get that little 90-degree angle there, we'll probably switch to a not as aggressive, I guess, wire wheel. We're going to use a little bit finer one just so it doesn't, you know, rip it all to shreds. But this is what we're going to use. We have a couple of them already. I'm going to cover up because this thing's going to throw dust everywhere, and we're going to hit this up and see how far we can get on that. Let's take a look at this frame. That's after a pass on the wire wheel. I'll still have to get up underneath there. I got the bottom, the top, the inside, and the owner only wanted us to go about where the jack stand is, just the bottom of the firewall. He said he's going to take care of everything else in the future. It's just since we're putting this new engine in for him, he wanted to go ahead and just button this up so he wouldn't have to pull any of that stuff out. So not all builds are $100,000 like you see on TV, where you can take the cab off, take the bed off, take the course board, just strip it down, have it blasted and powder coated. We can do that, but not every build is like that. Some builds are in steps, some builds are just nice, refresh daily drivers. So if you think that, why don't you just take the cab off and have it blasted? Yes, you can do that. Does the customer always want that? No. Can the customer always afford that on every single vehicle they have? No. So that's why we're doing it the way we're doing it here. We're just going to be putting a new engine in, and we want it to look good underneath the engine. If he ever gets to that point of pulling the cab off, then he can do the rest of the frame when he gets to that point. This is the side of the frame that we didn't do, so you can tell the difference. And then you can see the inner frame over there. Looks real nice. We're going to get to this one here. We're probably going to remove, I'm going to remove the steering box if it's not that big of a pain, if the bolts and nuts want to cooperate. I'm probably going to remove this because he did buy a new steering column, and that way that'll get all of that out of the way so I can get in there fairly easy. But that's part of the frame that's not done. But you can tell all of this is a clean floor just off of one frame rail. It's a lot of stuff. All right, I'm not going to film the rest of the stuff. It's me grinding a frame. You don't need to see that. You saw me do this side of it. It's not that big of a deal. So I'm going to go ahead and just skip towards that. Frame drills all wire wheeled and cleaned up. We did the outside, the inside, the top, and the bottom back to where the jack stands are sitting. Went all the way up underneath the front bumper. It cleaned up fairly well. There are some spots that we need to go back that are in the crevices, kind of like this, that we can get with a smaller wire wheel or possibly just our fingers and some sandpaper. But we knocked off a lot of surface rust, a little bit of the grime that was left over from the pressure wash, and a lot of scale basically just kind of flaking where gas has leaked, coolant has leaked, oil has leaked, and it just kind of scaled up on there. We've taken a lot of that off. We did take the steering box off. It came out super easy, so we went ahead and took that off. We will have to get up in these little crevices here with a smaller wire wheel or a brush, like I said. It's not going to be a perfect job. That's where the media blasting comes in for the higher dollar restorations, to get in all the little crevices. But for what we're doing and what the customer wants, this is going to be more than enough. We did spray it down with some cleaner just to kind of see where we stand before we go back with the final sand. We're probably going to get maybe some 80 or 120 grit sandpaper and just go back with our hands and try to get it a little bit better than it is right now. But for the most part, for the time that was spent, that is your best bet, is to get one of those wire wheels and to go at it. That probably took about an hour to get everything. And of course, again, like I said, we stopped at the front cab support per the customer's request. And then we're going to get up underneath the bumper. All right, let's get going to the next step. All right, it's a new morning. Let's take a look at where we're at. Yesterday we got to basically finishing the frame. You can see all grinded and wire wheeled there. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and paint this core support here. You can see I've already kind of scuffed it up. We're not going to wire wheel this. This isn't in that bad of a shape. It only has a little bit of surface rust on the top. The rest of it is just the old paint, but there's no surface rust or anything like that to really get into. So we're just going to scuff it up and shoot it black as well. But in order to do that, I'm going to remove the grill. I need to get back down here in order to paint this. This grill is one big piece. On the later models, you can remove just the centerpiece and be able to get to it. But on this one here, it's one big piece, and I can't spray paint through this here when I'm needing to get to the core support. So we're going to remove this, which is a couple of bolts on each side, and then you have a couple here on the support, and then you have a couple on the bottom as well. I may have to remove the bumper. It's been a while since I've done a 67, 68, but it's got kind of like a splash pan up underneath. So I don't know if I need to remove the bumper or not. We're going to take a look at it. But if so, it's not a big deal. It's 3 bolts on each side. One of them's a bracket, and 2 of them over here is actually on the end of the frame. But we're going to remove this and get to scuffing it up and access to paint that. The back half of it, let's see here. The back half of it here has the windshield washer fluid bracket. I've taken the jug out, but it has the bracket. It also has the horn, some of the electrical components down there, and a battery box over there. I'm going to remove those. That way I have a clear shot to the back of it as well. But you can see I've already started scuffing this. There is a little bit of rust in the bottom. Can't do nothing about that. He's wanting to keep the original core support. It's structurally sound, so that's why we're just going to give it a scuff and a shoot. It's not basically detrimental to replace it due to rust, so for what he's wanting, it's good enough. But we do need to remove all of this stuff in order to get to it properly so we can prep it to paint it. But stay tuned. That's what we're going to do today, and hopefully it don't take too long. We can knock it out and then start spraying. All right, we got the grill out, as you see. There was actually 2 bolts on each corner. So 2 here, 2 down here, and then 2 here, and then 2 down at the bottom. So 2, 4, 6, 8 right there. And then there are, I don't know, 4 or 5 down here that there's what? I think there's 3, there's probably 6 down that way. I left the splash pan in. The splash pan is a little rusty over here, so I didn't want to bother taking the bolts out of that and then it not ever being able to be put back in. So we left the splash pan in there. It's fine. We can get to the top, so there's no reason to take that off. But you can tell here that it's definitely been repainted at one time. There's different blues, if y'all couldn't already tell. But what we're going to do is we're going to sand this down. Like I said, there's not a whole lot of surface rust on it, or a lot of deep rust. If anything, it's just a little bit of surface rust here and there, but it looks real well. This down here is the only part, and you can tell probably that's where the debris would sit, and then the water would sit, or the coolant leak, or anything like that. That is definitely worse than the core support up here. But we're going to sand this down by hand. We're going to use a little mix of sandpaper, and then I also have those green Scotch-Brite pads. I have an excess of them, so I'm going to be using that. The red ones are a little bit more coarse. For y'all that don't know, it's green, and then red is coarse, and then the gray is, if I remember right, is the most coarse. But I don't have any reds with me. I have plenty of greens. I ordered way too many, so I'm going to use the green scuff pads and scuff all of this up, and then this pan down here, and we'll paint all of that black. We're going to tape it off in here and then paint it black. We're going to get to the other side, start taking off the brackets, and do the same thing. We're going to start stripping this side. Not too bad. All right, so we're going to take some sandpaper. It's not real rough, but it's not fine. We're going to get a little bit of the heavier stuff here. This black stuff here we can get with a Scotch-Brite pad. That's really just paint that's, you know, old but still good. It's not flaking, there's no rust or anything like that. So we'll just score that up a little bit just to give it some tooth for the paint to stick to. But I'm going to go by with some of the sandpaper like this stuff here that has a little bit more extra surface rust, and we're just going to run over it, sand it, get that heavier scale stuff off, and then we'll follow it, like I said, with that Scotch-Brite pad. We're not trying to go down to bare metal. If it does, you can see here, that's fine. It's usually going to go on bare metal on the edges. That's where the paint, one, is thinnest, but two, you usually put a little bit more power and effort here, not meaning to, but you'll start seeing some bare metal here. It's fine, but we're not going to take this all the way down to bare metal. I'm just trying to sand it a little bit just to give it some tooth and to get rid of some of this surface rust or overspray that it might have gotten over the years. Then I'll follow it up with some Scotch-Brite. So I'm going to do that all the way down here. I'm going to put it on a time lapse so you don't have to sit here and watch me do this in real time. And we'll do the whole front, and we'll turn over and do the back. I went ahead off camera. I did remove the battery bracket and then also the windshield washer fluid, the horn, and the electrical wires that were sitting here. I went ahead and removed that. So it is a bare core support minus this little headlight spring. I'm going to be replacing these headlight adjusters. They're plastic and cracking. But that's the next step. So let's get to it. All right, we got the front part knocked out, as well as this little splash pan here. I still have to wipe it down. It's really dusty. You saw me brushing just the majority of the stuff off, but I'm still gonna go by. I'll put some, most likely some denatured alcohol or mineral spirits or something, just to kind of wipe it, get everything off of it and real nice and clean before we paint it. But that's the front. There was some overspray here that was flaking pretty good, so I went ahead and spent a little bit more time on that. I don't want to spray on paint that's flaking. Of course, that makes no sense. So sand that down until you get to, like this portion here, until you get to good paint that's adhering. Sand that down, and then you'll be good to go. I cleaned this up a little bit here. I'm not going to paint this. I just wanted to get some of the surface rust off and dust a little bit there. Did that on both sides. But this side, besides wiping down and cleaning, is ready for paint. I'm going to go ahead and flip over and do this side. I'll do it off camera. All right, guys, we finally got the core support on the front side and the back side sanded down, cleaned up, wiped down multiple times. Just a quick overview. Went over the hard surface rust, stuff like this, stuff like this. We went over with sandpaper with a pretty aggressive grit just to knock all of that off. And then we followed it back by with a green Scotch-Brite pad. This is what I consider Scotch-Brite pads. I know, oh, there you go, it says Scotch-Brite pad. There you go. All right, so I followed it by with that. Did the best we can. This side of the core support's good. It's just got a little bit of overspray here and there, but we sanded that, made sure that it was actually bonded pretty well. Anything that was flaking off, it took off. This side wasn't too bad. The back side is far worse. It's still not real bad, but you can see that there is, this is actually bare metal. It looked like a ruster or something, but the bottom's always going to be a little bit messier. That's where the core support sits. That's where all the junk collects. And if the radiator's leaking or anything like that, it gets stuck up in there. There's just really nothing that you can do besides replacing that or having it blasted. See if I can zoom in. There you but that is as clean as it can get. We did get a wire wheel on that portion of it and got all the loose rust and anything like that off of it. So we sanded this side as well, and we did the underneath side. We didn't film that, just it's me sitting there sanding. Don't really want to see that, I'm assuming. This was the worst part, like I told you. This is from a lot of times, I'm not saying this exact one, but a lot of times when you look at these C10s and older trucks, that the battery's over here, it's a lot of times because the battery is leaking, or it exploded, or you know, got hot and overfilled or something. But that's why a lot of the passenger side front is rusted out on these trucks, is because the battery box sits right here. Not saying that's the case on every single one of them, but a lot of times if you're buying these trucks, get up underneath there and look, and you'll see stuff like this all the time right underneath the battery. So that's the only thing that I can think of. That side's usually not as bad over there, but it is what it is. It's still there. It's not flopping. It's just basically the bottom part where the wheel well attaches to. So everything else we got cleaned up. Got the frame. We've wiped it down. We're going to tape it off, and then we'll probably wipe it down again. And then we'll wipe everything down with some chemical, make sure it's free of any like wax or grease or anything like that from my fingers touching it. You can kind of see actually maybe some there. But we'll get it sanded down. We'll get it wiped down probably 3 or 4 more times before we paint it. That's just the name of the game. But it's looking a lot better, and it's going to look a lot better once we get the paint on. All right, guys, that's it for this episode. Just a brief recap. We got the frame and the core support all cleaned up and ready for paint. So next episode, we're going to take some stuff off, give it a coat of paint, and start getting ready to put the cross member and the engine back in. I appreciate y'all stopping by. Like it if you like the video. If you want to see more videos, push the subscribe button. That'll give you a notification anytime we post any more content. Y'all can also follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Everything's the same. Holmes, Hot Rods, and Cycles. You can find us all there. And anyways, thank y'all for stopping by. That's it. We'll see you next time. Made some pretty fuck you. Core support and the frame stripped down, cleaned down. Back together. So I appreciate it. Look, just brief recap.
Wow.
I don't even know what a recap is. Anywho, this episode, I'm going to go ahead and not know what the fuck I'm saying.